Hi, this is John Cole with OKRaw.com. Today we're going to do another food preparation demo. So what we're going to do today is we're going to make one of my favorite smoothies. I oftentimes in the morning either have a fruit smoothie or a green smoothie or just fresh fruit for breakfast. And today I'm actually going to do a fruit smoothie, so it's really easy. My smoothies are based on coconuts. I love coconuts. They are my favorite food. They really keep me satisfied for several hours. It's, the smoothie has some fat content in there. So it really helps to keep me satisfied and going for a couple hours until I remember that I'm actually hungry later in the afternoon. So I have a couple different coconuts here, and this is the young Thai coconut that I have right here, and this is the one that's younger. It actually has a much sweeter water and a nice jelly meat in there. And these are from Thailand. They're shipped over, and they are probably dipped in sulfides and thiamabenzol, which is a fungicide, and they do that, and they wrap it in plastic for good reason, because if they didn't do that, the coconut would expire, because the shells are notoriously thinner than these old coconuts, and they go bad fast. I've shipped them, or actually took them back in my luggage from various countries around the world. I have another video on shelling coconuts in Puerto Rico. But they do go bad fairly fast, usually within a week. So these guys, they're probably at least a month old or whatnot. And the other thing about this is that, just like we have different varieties of apples, we have Granny Smith apples and Fuji apples, and all the apples taste a bit different. The Fuji apples tend to be really sweet, and the Granny Smith are pretty tart, So the coconuts is kind of like, in coconuts, the Thai coconut is kind of like that Fuji apple. It's like really a sweet coconut, whereas, one of these coconuts is not that sweet. So when I first started tasting these, I thought these were really good, and then I tasted one of these and I'm like, oh man, these are bad because they're not sweet. But no, that's how these are, and actually nowadays I'm enjoying more these coconuts, which actually aren't dipped in anything, because they do go bad and do go moldy. And these ones are also a lot closer. So these are from Mexico, whereas these are from Thailand. So there's a lot less carbon emissions, in the transportation being generated from these guys, and I enjoy the water much more. So these are a little bit different to get into, and we'll show you in a second how to get into these. So let's go ahead and get into this young Thai coconut first. We're going to take our standard chef's knife. This is a stainless steel chef's knife, actually purchased from the dollar store. The thing when you're selecting a knife is you want to make sure it's nice and thick, and you don't want to be able to bend it, so this one barely flexes. You want it nice and thick. If it bends a lot, it's not going to be a good coconut knife. Also, after I got it from the dollar store, it was a pretty good knife, but I needed to take a file to it and sharpen it up. So we're going to literally just put the coconut on its side, and I don't take off the plastic wrapping paper on there, the plastic wrap, because I don't want to touch the, maybe chemicals that have been dipped in. So I'll leave the plastic on there and just literally just cut through the plastic. So I'm cutting off the top of the coconut all the way down into the shell, just to remove the husk, and you can see it came off in a, pretty much one whole piece. Basically took the top off of it, and what you'll see there is I'll just have the shell left. And this is, if you're looking at the coconut, technically this is the bottom of the coconut, so the eyes of the coconut are on this side. So you're looking at the coconut. So this is a husked coconut. That's a middle-aged coconut that's white. They also have the brown coconuts, which are older. So it goes younger, middle of age, and then the older ones would be brown if I had the brown coconut. So I prefer the white coconuts now. The brown ones, they get pretty high in fat, and as well the water doesn't taste as good as maybe these middle-aged ones. So once you get this all shaved down, you're going to put it on the table. And some people crack it into it and all this stuff. Now that's just too dangerous. I found this is the best method to be able to get the meat out in one piece and to be really safe about opening coconuts. So what you're going to do is, if you see here, there's 3 veins, 1, 2, 3, and in between the veins where there's the largest space, which is between this segment, I'll go about, a ½ inch down. And what you're going to do is literally take your knife and stick it in this way. And then you're going to raise up your hand to be, flush with the edge of the knife, like that. Then you're just going to take the other hand, and I just usually open hand it, and do like a tap, and it's going to tap in there. Might not tap in enough, so then you're going to tap it again, and there you go. It's tapped in, it's sturdy, and then you're going to just lower the level of the knife down to be level with your surface, and then you're just going to rock it back and forth like you're riding a motorcycle. And what will happen is literally the top will pop off. So we have the top, we're going to put that aside, and it's full of water. This way you'll lose very little water. I used to crack it on its side with a cleaver knife, and then water would start gushing out. Well, you're losing the valuable water that's inside the coconut. So that's my most enjoyable part, actually. So we've just opened that up. And once you have that out, next we're going to dig the meat out. And when you do it this way, the hole is usually large enough so that you can just scoop out the meat. And now we're going to basically use a spoon to get the coconut meat out of the coconut. And because we have a nice large hole, we could easily get a spoon in there. And as you can see, a lot of my spoons are bent. And that's because this is a really thin spoon right here. It has a thin handle, so you want to try to find a spoon with a thick handle. The other thing you can do is sometimes the meat's a little bit older in here and a little bit harder to dig out. So what I would recommend doing is actually buying an ice cream scoop. So you want to look for an ice cream scoop that has a really thick handle and reinforced handle, and that will give you better leverage actually to get the coconut meat out of the coconut. The next thing we're going to open up is the middle-aged Mexican coconut. So basically for this, it's really a hard shell, and there's basically 2 eyes and a mouth, and you can see the 2 eyebrows for the eyes, and then the mouth has no kind of eyebrows or ridges. And what I like to use for that is basically a coconut opening tool. You could also use like a screwdriver with a hammer or a drill. It's the easiest way to get into one of these. And basically this tool easily goes through the mouth. So you just put it in and you turn and twist, pops it through. And if I was to just drink the water, I would just put a straw in there and drink the water out, so it makes it really convenient. Then you have this little tool to push through here to get the plug that you just popped out. So it's kind of like a hole punch for a coconut. Then the next thing I'll go through is I'll go through one of the eyes. So I'll put it in there and I'll just rotate back and forth. And as you rotate and push in, it basically has some sharp, like a sharp saw-like blade that basically goes in. And you gotta keep pushing and keep turning. And I'm all the way through now, so you can see it went all the way in. Now I can pull it all the way out while I'm turning and spinning it. And now we have 2 holes. So you could get water out with 1 hole, but with 2 holes, there's an air hole so it pours easier. So now you can see that it pours out fairly easily. So the other ingredients that we're going to use today in our smoothie are fresh bananas, and I have some frozen blueberries. Definitely freshest is always bestest. So you always want to eat your food freshest as possible. So fresh blueberries are better than frozen blueberries. And on raw foods, if you do make your own frozen food, that is the best. If you do buy frozen fruits, they're generally considered raw because they take them out of the field and literally just freeze them. Then they sell them to you, so they haven't actually been heated. But that being said, the life force or the vibrancy of the food is not quite as high as fresh stuff, of course. So this time of year, it's not blueberry season, so we could do frozen is the best we could do. It also will give my smoothie a nice consistency. So next, we're going to put in our bananas. So these are just organic bananas. I prefer the organic fair trade bananas. They actually taste a lot better than standard organic bananas. And this being said, I'm not a big fan of bananas. I just eat bananas because they are fairly inexpensive for a good caloric source. So they're high in calories and pretty inexpensive otherwise. I rarely will eat them just out of hand because these bananas that we get in the continental US are like cardboard. If you go to some place like Hawaii or somewhere where they actually really grow bananas, you could get, apple bananas, and those are real bananas. These ones, are picked too early, they ripen up off the vine, and they just really don't taste that good. But they're a good filler, so that's what we're using them for. The other thing I do sometimes is I'll actually peel the bananas and then freeze them up, and then I'll put them in the smoothie. That'll give the smoothie a nice, really creamy consistency if using the frozen bananas. So if I do use frozen bananas, I'll always try to use a mixture of fresh and frozen bananas. But today we're going to use the frozen blueberries for that consistency. And so this is a 16-ounce bag of wild blueberries from Canada, So we're going to put probably about half the bag in there. And now we're going to turn the blender on. Oh, forgot one last ingredient. The secret ingredient I like to use many times, and that's whole vanilla beans. So I like to include whole vanilla beans as almost like a flavor enhancement, and it makes it taste much, much better. So we'll go ahead and put that in. Put the top on and we'll blend it up. Alright, so our smoothie's done blending now. Let me go ahead and turn that off. We'll take the top off here. Shake off the top. And, that's a good smoothie. So this is about 7 cups of smoothie, and this is what I basically eat for breakfast or my lunch. So if I have this for breakfast, then I'll eat whole fruits for lunch, and if I have whole fruits for breakfast, then I'll eat this for lunch. I think I said that right. So this is always, coconuts are generally always the base of my smoothie, whether I'm making a green smoothie or not. I generally never add regular just tap water or filtered water to my smoothie. I'll use coconut water. Coconut water is very high in electrolytes and one of my greatest healing foods, and I think it's definitely a good thing to include in your diet every day. And hopefully you've learned how to open coconuts and make a delicious raw food smoothie for breakfast, fruit smoothie for breakfast. So this is John Kohler with OKRaw.com, and keep on smoothieing. Bye-bye.